how would you like to make your first million? And today we have Mitali Saxena with us. And Mitali Saxena is a 2X fashion tech founder, TEDx speaker, and a professor. She built and scaled a fashion tech company and discovered firsthand how inner alignment drive external success. Today, she is the founder of Awareness Intelligence trademark, where she helped founders, leaders, and organizations develop clarity, resilience, and sustainable growth through mindfulness and awareness practices. So, Mitali, tell us what are the 5 steps you recommend entrepreneurs, tech entrepreneurs, in order to make the first million?
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction, Harry. As you mentioned, I built a fashion tech startup, and there were a few things that worked in my journey, beginning from the idea stage all the way to actually I got to the first 3 millions in the first year. So I can list out the steps that worked for me,
Wow.
and I can. I was the first year, but I can list out the steps that happened in my journey and what also I learned, because not everything, it's not a one size fit all solution. So I'll also point out some hiccups and challenges that I had during that time, and all the steps that I took to mitigate those challenges. So the first thing I did was actually, it was an idea for me to understand the market space. My idea was to promote body positivity for women, but I didn't know if people would want to pay for such a thing and what the business model would look like. So my first one was to sell the idea to people, or to get an understanding if it was an idea that resonated with people before even the launch of the business, of spending a single dime on it. And the way I did it, I just had like a friend who helped me out, and we hired two models. One was African American plus size lady, and the other one was a transgender model. And we stood outside New York Fashion Week, and we had a whiteboard, nothing fancy, just a whiteboard with us written on it. And it's saying, hey, if you don't believe that you need to be a runway model in real life and you relate to this, please put a Be Real sticker on this model. And we stood outside 2 locations, and we had a videographer, again, very low budget filming, someone off of Craigslist that we found. And because all the participants, all the PR that was going to these shows, we got a lot of attention. And we started recording everything that was happening, and we got interviewed. We were in a lot of digital magazines, BuzzFeed covered us. And this was before even the business model had come out. I just knew that this was something I wanted to work towards, like as a mission, but I didn't know what it would turn out to be. And overnight, we had about 50,000 views on the video. It was a proof of concept. So that's step number one for in my journey. It was without actually creating a product, just to understand if the mission is clear. Because when it comes to fashion, you have to have a very clear brand story, because it's very competitive. You need to have a clear mission and differentiator, if not like a product, but maybe like a brand story that you can tell to people. So this was my first step. Stood out with understanding the pain and not just a passion, So people usually start thinking like, how would they solve a problem just with their own passion for it? They don't understand the problem. That's number one mistake. And I felt like doing this and then clarifying how this could be done in a profitable manner was my step two. So the step two that we tried was trying to sell before building. Again, so we didn't build out like a whole product. I knew that, I wasn't even from the fashion industry. I'm a tech person, I'm an engineer, so I didn't understand fashion really well. So I didn't want to keep spending money on building something that wasn't going to sell. The first version was a very simple app that functions very similar to Instagram, but we had no filters and we were promoting body positivity, and people were selling, they were tagging products that they were wearing all around the world. And again, this didn't do any paid ads, just tried doing influencer campaigns and people that I knew, and we spread because it was a global product. I could use outside of the US contacts as well, and we gained about 150,000 users during that process, but we were not making money. So that was lesson learned. I thought that was a problem people had, that they wanted to see real pictures, no filters, and learn from others where they were shopping. But it turned out the activity was there, but revenue didn't come because the revenue model was through affiliate marketing. So at that point, I'm like, okay, it's time to pivot. And I, again, did not want to start all over again building, it wasn't this easy back then. I'm talking about 2018, 2019. We didn't have vibe coding that you could erase everything and build overnight. So there was a lot of heartache and, stress involved trying to figure out the right people to move forward with. So the second step before building out the complete different model was to test out another theory. So I had ordered a box from Stitch Fix, which later became the competitor. And I saw that they in Miami, and by the time I was in Miami, in the month of July, they sent me a box of clothing that wasn't me. Like it was sweaters, corduroy pants, and in the middle of really hot summer, and it was about $500, the whole box. And I clicked, like, I'm like, okay, this is something that people would like, and especially, people who are busy, but this is not solving my problem. So could this be a problem that we could solve with the same mission? So again, I did not change the app, kept the same app, no website, nothing, and changed the business model a little bit. And I said, hey, why don't you guys try filling out this form? And it's only for customers in the US, and we'll ship you a box of clothing. But again, second learning, I would say in step two is people focus a lot on learning from others, which is good. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, but also sometimes not knowing exactly what to do also pays up in your favor. I didn't know what I was doing. The only thing I knew was I was a problem solver because I was an engineer. And I focused completely on data at that point. I said, okay, we collect data from people, then how does that translate into fashion? So the way all subscription boxes were working was like, okay, they'll send you a mystery box and then you return everything and keep what you like. And I felt like that wasn't very helpful as a customer as well, because I don't know what I'm getting, and the chances of me returning everything is pretty high. So we started showing like a preview, getting more data, started getting to a price point that would work. And again, I had no sourcing background, so I was just trying to find, a little bit sources from local designers and things in Miami. And I was in Tulum for my birthday that year with no website. I had no idea this was gonna happen. And I woke up and we had about 200 orders. And I'm like, we didn't even launch the platform. How the hell did that happen? So then I found out that during this whole process, where we already had some users from the previous version, there was a YouTuber who got the box as a trial, and she did like an unboxing video. And I had no idea there was a thing called unboxing on YouTube. And a lot of people watched it and they started ordering. And like I said, there was no proof of concept in like or was warehouse where everything was functional. It was just an idea. But I started selling before we built it. So that was step two, like a pilot run, which was very successful. And from that point on, I felt like there was traction. I knew the mission was good. That was proven. The business idea was proven, even though it was a very small set of people. But following that, we started getting more requests from YouTubers who wanted content, because this was a good content piece. Like you get a box, you do this unboxing thing and showcase what you're wearing. Again, this came out of nowhere for me because I wasn't from this world of influencers and, moms who are doing unboxing videos. I never even watched YouTube videos, to be honest. So it was a good surprise. But I used it to the advantage of understanding the market, and I knew that this could sell even before the whole process was built out. So in now coming to step three, it wasn't like we were hunting for influencers on Instagram. That was my initial thought process, that okay, fashion influencers only exist on Instagram, that's where we should go. But now we identified who this person is going to be. It was not going to be a fashion influencer from Instagram. Um it was probably like a stay-at-home busy mom in the middle of nowhere, because that's the clientele we started attracting through these YouTube influencers. And that's it. It was pretty small but obsessed kind of clientele, because they felt like, they wanted to look good. They didn't have enough time to go out shopping, or the malls were really far from them. They just wanted something that, looked matched their preferences. And that was the biggest thing. Like, how does this look good on me, instead of the other way around? Like, if you see a model and you think that that was going to look good on you. So based on my old mission, which continued, like how do we promote body positivity, that small obsession or the small subset of clients became the core of it. So then we said, okay, if this is the clientele that we're looking at, how do we make sure that they buy? So initially, Stitch Fix's founding team, two of their members joined my company because Stitch Fix had gone public at that time. And they told me that, there were a lot of profitability issues and the rate of return. Like, so we would send 5 things, the rate of return was pretty high for them. And I said, again, going back to my old point, I didn't come from this world. I had no idea what, the metrics should look like. And I'm like, as a business person, I would want them to keep all 5 things. I don't understand why would they would return. So I focused my obsession over data, and I said, okay, we're going to collect everything that we can. And it was a good thing that they were posting on YouTube, because then we could look at it, like we could see how things are fitting on this woman. And I mean, I knew it from my personal life, but I understood it more that for women, the biggest challenge is not just the size and fit, it's also the style. All styles don't fit all. So it had to be curated towards, like, every style had to be matched with a certain body type. So then I started building out our first data science team, which focused only on, and they didn't understand fashion, they understood numbers. And I was, I guess, the liaison between the two, because I understood both worlds. And we basically started building out a recommendation engine that would match women's body shapes with style. And we had like an internal mechanism of doing the tagging of the clothing and all of that. And it just became like what I now have. We have like over millions of data points to make this more robust. So we started building AI before even AI existed. The whole thing was to understand and predict what someone would like based on certain information we got from our customers. So that was step three, like finding that small, obsessed customer niche that we knew would buy. And then the fourth one was focusing on that one channel. So again, my data mind kept going in that direction. A lot of people, and because now I also do some advising, I invest and I consult, and I found that one thing that's missing in most or most people who are launching right now, they want to try everything at the same time. And it's just like throwing spaghetti on the wall. Like, you can't just keep throwing and seeing what's going to stick, and you end up spending a lot of money. And, and most companies usually fail within the first couple of years, because you've tried everything, you spent so much money on everything, and you're like, oh, it's not working, it's not working. In my case, I was like, okay, if YouTube is working, then why do we have to try anything else? Like, let's focus on that. So it was one channel focus only. We knew influencers were working. We knew our retention was high. So focusing on retention, how to keep these people, coming back, because the whole idea of a subscription box is for people to come back. And we found a sweet spot that if they bought the first 2 boxes, the chances of them staying for years was very high. So our focus became how do we make the first two boxes the best for this person. So again, there was some internal gimmicks that we played, but more focused gimmick. Not, I won't say the gimmicks, but it was tactics, I would say, we played internally to understand who our customer was. And after the second or third session, you have enough data about that person to understand also their personality and their preferences. So yeah, focusing on one channel really, really works. I feel like, instead of spending millions of dollars on everything, focus on one. We didn't actually pay for ads for the first 2 years. We were at 3 million in revenue in the first year. And then at end of 2019, 2020, when we started doing ads. And ads, we focused more on Facebook than Instagram because I knew that these moms were mostly on on Facebook because it was an older clientele. Again, keep focusing on data and figuring out who it is, and then only focusing on that really, really. And then step 5 was basically turning that into a system. It like repeat what's working, build a funnel, and improve margins. So it's not all always luck. Yeah, I got lucky in the first round, but then I learned from it and I made it a repeatable system. And one more thing that I learned during that journey, which was a challenge in the beginning, but then I understood, was hiring the right people. I knew like skills wasn't the focus. Yes, you could be the best data scientist, but if you didn't understand this market, or if you weren't flexible enough to understand how this is going to work, then they weren't a right fit. I actually liked hiring people who were very open-minded, because in a startup, as you know, that it's all about, it's a little bit of a trial and error. You have to pivot really fast. You have to move fast. You have to test out new things. Okay, it doesn't work. Let's go there. It doesn't mean that you've done this before will work again. So again, it was the system to test and move on, test and move on, but we know what's working. We knew the clientele, and the focus after the fourth step, when we knew that our retention is good, people are coming back, we have crossed the revenue model that we wanted. But then the fifth challenge was, which is the biggest challenge in any fashion company, is operations. We are very, very heavy, and then operations in this case was even higher because people return, and it's very specific type of things that we have to process and give them. It's not like, hey, they're choosing what they want. So again, all these equations had to be mapped into a way where the margins would be good. So again, data obsession came back, and the team kept growing, and then we started building our own internal operations. So basically, the way we saw was, okay, the warehouse has like 2 floors. So to give you an example, someone might fit in a size small of a brand, and the other brand would be like a size medium. So, and carried over 100 brands, like 50,000 SKUs. It was a big operations. And if a packaging person has to go from, the first floor, the second floor, the third floor, they're going to spend 30 minutes just figuring out one box. And I'm like, that's not like doable. That's a lot of time spent. So we focused on building our own mechanism, our own operation software, to make sure that the packaging time was reduced from, I think it was 20-25 minutes to like 10 minutes. Basically, a packaging person would go in a straight row. We knew how this was going to function for them, and they're not going to move around. It will be done in one straight row, and that was it. So a lot of work, I think, went behind after the whole, after we knew what was working, like to make it into a system. We started focusing more on operations and inventory prediction, like what eventually buy. You can't, again, inventory, like I was saying, is a big hassle in fashion. You don't know what these customers are going to like. In our case, we were lucky because we were collecting so much data. It became also helpful to understand what and how we should buy, like what quantities to buy and what color and what season from where, depending on our own database of customers. So I'll give you an example. The way we started working on that information was, we knew that the Northeast, for example, loves buying navies and blacks. And we knew what season they would buy what kind of product. So we would buy more of that in that month, and so on and so forth. That's
Wow.
my next steps.
Yeah. So then, Mitali, out of the 500 million that we interview in this podcast, one out of five are tech, and let's say companies have done successfully like you. We, but we need to share with the audience because people might be listening to the podcast could think that okay, if one out of five uh, guests that come to the podcast, they are tech millionaire, I'm gonna do a tech business and become a tech millionaire is easy. So can you share the good, the bad, the ugly of tech businesses? So to have a
I'm sorry, Harry, the last part was a little choppy. I couldn't
okay.
understand.
So what is the good, the bad, and the ugly tech businesses?
Um, the good is if you are passionate about it. I feel like, it's very fulfilling because you get that adrenaline rush when people buy your product. The bad is it can be very competitive. And I can say that it wasn't very easy as a female brown tech founder. Raising money was very, very challenging. I had applied or talked to 500 investors. Out of that, I got like 100 maybe yes maybes, and then and so on and so forth. I mean, I had like comments from people like big bankers and big um, angel firms who said, "What if you spend the money on shopping?" And I'm like, I've just my business. So it was, I for me, the bad was that I was working against time because it was inventory and cash heavy. And it was challenging for me as a woman, as a single founder to raise. And the ugly was the yes, there was definitely a bias for women as opposed to men doing this because I even got so I was in Bay Area because I thought, oh, Bay Area is the place to raise. But I started getting comments that we can have a tech guy who can be your CTO and build this quicker. Why do we need you? Things like that, like very direct and harsh comments. So that was the ugly.
Very little funding goes to women in tech. No. In London, we have the same problem. So why do you think the main risk?
Harry, again, your voice was breaking. I couldn't understand.
So what is the main reason why women don't get funding in tech?
I don't know what people think. I just know from my side point of view that women just have challenges because they're compared with guys. And I think there's a bias that people think that guys can do tech better than women. And it's very clear and obvious when people started telling me that, oh, get a co-founder, get a guy who can do this. And I'm like, I'm an engineer. I'm improving the business model. I'm building a big tech team. And I still hear those. So obviously, people are biased that guys can do this better. Obviously, the stats show, right? Only 2% women get funded in tech. So there's stats to prove that.
Your story. Why you decide to become an entrepreneur?
It was through a meditation, I'll be real. I I felt I wanted to do it just because it came through my meditation practice that this was my mission to create, and I didn't know where the path was leading me onto. I just wanted to take that risk at that time. No,
The
zero.
family and friends support you. So why did
They
it? What they told you? When you said
I didn't tell my family for 6 months. After I started seeing, after step two, when I started getting traction, and that's when I told my family, hey, I quit my job and I'm doing this because my family was like totally in shock. I'm a third generation engineer. Everyone's worked for someone and they've done really, really well. I can say they're all successful people and very smart people, but none of them were risk takers like me for sure.
so. Tell us what because being a founder is a very lonely journey, and you need to go through different phases. 0 to 500,000, you are wearing all the hats all the time, and this process is very emotionally intense. So when do you realize that you have to grow the business, but also to look after yourself?
I think in the beginning, I lost it because everything was moving really fast. Like, there was a little bit of luck, like I said, with the whole YouTubers, but um, in a good way. Like, we proved it and we started moving, but I had no idea where I was going to get the inventory from. How do I get a warehouse? It was just like we had like 500-600 pending orders, and I had no idea how to fulfill them. That's when my family actually stepped in. Then I told them, like, I need help. My apartment became a warehouse. We all stayed in a hotel because my apartment was full of inventory. So, um, and then, but the challenges at that time, I wasn't noticing in my mind, even though I had my spiritual practices and awareness. I kept going like on 100 miles per hour because I knew that I had to fulfill all these orders and I had to make this work. I think it's after the first year when it hit me. And then I'm like, okay, the whole idea of this doing this was also to have fun and have a bigger purpose and mission, but I'm losing it now because even at work, and this is the pivotal point, and that you and I have spoken, and I want to mention this here. The reason this whole mental awareness thing started was because of funding. When I was feeling all that pressure, where would this go? This would go down to my team because I'm like, the only way to prove to an investor that we are worthy of receiving and getting this funding is to show more growth. There's no other way to show, right? These people would trust a guy over me because they think that they're better or they're more capable of building. But numbers show success in an ROI. So why don't we focus on that? And that put me under pressure and the team under pressure. And I'm like, okay, no one's really having fun. And my metrics were so high. We used to have like a whiteboard, and I put incentives like, hey, we cross this number, we go on a boat trip, things like that. It's we should just go on a boat trip regardless. So why are we pushing it so hard? So anyway, it just became very, very stressful. I felt like I was a pressure cooker inside. And that's when I started bringing all the mindfulness practices at work. It was during the fundraising process.
Us a little bit more about these mindfulness practices. What
Sure.
you did?
So initially, I had no idea if people would resonate with it. I've been trained on doing a lot of meditation work since 2010. I've trained with teachers like Eckhart Tolle, Joe Dispenza. I've done some neuroscience work also with Tara Sword. Anyway, so I was doing it more for my friends and family. I never thought I would do it outside of my house. And when I said there was such a pivotal point, my company would have crashed. I would have crashed. I was like living in like heart palpitations almost every day. I felt physically ill doing this work. So I'm like, why not bring this to work and see what happens? Worst case, they'll say no and it won't work. I just opened up the floor and I said, listen, this is getting a little too tense for all of us. Why don't I do a guided meditation and see? And if you don't like it, it's totally fine, but maybe it'll help us. And everyone volunteered. Yes, not everyone resonated. Obviously, I had these tech bros. I'm going to be biased against tech bros, but who didn't believe in it. But we did other things, including a USPS man. He was so stressed because he was taking thousands of packages, and we were like, "Don't lose them. Make sure you do this right." So I asked him, "Do you want to meditate?" He sat with us. He sat with us and meditated. And so I started doing guided meditations every day, and it started working. And at that time, I didn't know about leadership and mindfulness and business coaching. And I accidentally started doing that in the office. So I created like small teams where they were accountable. They would talk about personal stuff. They could keep each other in check. Then I opened up. I'm like, hey, everyone does not want to meditate. Why don't we do something else? What do you suggest? One person was like, let's do salsa for an hour. I'm like, okay, anything that would take our minds off of work and ground us, let's just do that. We did stand-up comedy. We did all sorts of things, like, just to make sure that we were, our relationship was better, we were grounded, we would go running, things like that. And now going back, I've learned that all that actually classifies as business coaching, leadership, and mindfulness. At that time, I didn't know. So yeah, that was the story behind it.
So, if people are in love with this conversation, people can find you how this process works.
Sure, it's the new platform's called awarenessintelligence.ai. And this is where we help founders and businesses to incorporate mindfulness practices and help you succeed, not just with ROI strategies, but also how this whole inner world mindset actually plays along. I'm sorry?
Name of your business before, which one was? The
I
business that you've been
fashion.
fashion.
Yeah.
Okay, so and the website is
Fashom.com. FASHOM.com.
and so what is your message for tech entrepreneurs having
Sorry?
hard time right now?
Okay. Well, number one, I would say that it all starts and ends with your mind. I've learned that in my journey, and I've learned it through a lot of people that I've coached. Um, you become your own coach after you know what is going on. So awareness is number one, to know what's stopping you and what's causing the stress, right? Unless you're aware of it, there's nothing you can do about it. The second step would be, once you know, how do you deal with it? So again, depends on what level of stress you're having. But instead of focusing on the problem, focus on the solution. That would be my suggestion. If it is something related to, let's say time management, then you have to understand that if you don't give yourself that time, nothing else would work because you're focused on the outside more than the inside. So I know people always argue, oh, if I sit down and meditate for 30 minutes, that's taking away 30 minutes from my time. But the 30 minutes you spend on yourself would increase your productivity. And a number of hours don't necessarily translate into tasks done, you know? So yeah, that would be my advice. Spend a little time for yourself on work on yourself before you work for others.
So tell us a little bit more about your new venture.
Sure. So awareness intelligence basically came out of my TED talk. I was asked about this journey. That's the way I described it to you, what happened, and the company was crashing. And I coined this term called awareness intelligence, which is also an acronym for AI. So basically, the idea is for people to understand in the world of AI how your internal AI helps you succeed. So we help founders and businesses to understand there is a mindset, there is, your inner journey that helps with outer success. We don't say that, nothing it can be ignored. So if it is, for example, incorporating influencer strategy, how do you deal with that stress level, marketing to the right people while you're maintaining your sanity? So that's a connection we do between business strategy and inside world.
So any advice to women in tech?
Don't give up. There's always room for more, and we want more of us. I think the reason why people don't believe in us is because there's so few of us. The more women we have, the more we are together. I think the more we can prove ourselves.
So thank you so much, Vitali, for the broadcast. And for all of you following the podcast, see you now on next episode of Unstoppable. How brave entrepreneurs like Vitali take that world and achieve the first million. Bye for now.
Thank you so much, Harry. Bye.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.